Good morning, afternoon, or evening. I am Non of Information Highwayman, and you are watching an Ace of Spades Friday website review. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about thinking through your homepage copy, which is a very important thing to think about because your homepage copy is what a great many of your prospects are going to see the first time they go to your website, and it's going to be the first kind of conversation that you have with them. And whether or not they come away from that conversation feeling good or bad is going to make a lot of difference to whether or not they become your customer. I'm going to be looking at three main principles today. That isn't to say that there are only three principles, but rather that this particular site, congress.baplayers.com, exemplifies three principles that I think are worth talking about, and thanks to Federico for allowing me to have a look at that for him. We'll be using the Frodo conversion rate checklist as always, which stands for first reaction, orientation, desirability, and offers. And never neglecting Odo, who is the core of the checklist and represents the elements that we most want to talk about. And of course, attention equals contrast plus eye path is the little formula that we use to make sure that those elements are getting the attention and the eyes on them that they deserve. Having a look at the site now, first reaction, how does it make me feel? It doesn't make me feel bad, so that's that's halfway there already. It doesn't make me feel great, and part of that is because the top bar is not a really good green. Green is a good color. A lot of people are very fond of green, but most people are not fond of green that looks like it should belong to something which prematurely left someone's body. I would suggest that if you brighten that green, it would be a lot more inviting, and you would have a much more vibrant kind of feel to the site that would be more engaging when people come to it and would draw them in better. I'm also not entirely sold on this creative teaching and learning here. It seems like anything to do with schooling or teaching has this kind of obligation to have this hideous faux handwritten font with different colours, and looks like it's been painted, and it's got little splotches and stuff next to it. It doesn't do anything for me, but if that's what your audience is expecting to see, or that's kind of common in the industry that you are in, then it's not necessarily a bad thing. And the rest of the site does everything pretty well. It doesn't show me too much, it doesn't show me too little. It gives me a nice picture to see what everything is all about, and it has a nice strong headline, and the copy looks nice and readable, so it's doing pretty much everything more or less right, so that's good. Orientation. Am I in the right place? Okay, 9th Annual Congress is very strong. I can easily see that at the top, and I see creative teaching and learning. That doesn't really tell me what the site is about, and neither does the headline, good teachers can't be made or engineered, they make themselves. I would suggest some kind of more explanatory tagline would be a good idea, unless all of your prospects are coming to the site with a good understanding of what it's all about already, which is possible, but is not usually likely. So it's a good idea to be more explicit rather than less explicit, just in case people don't know what the site is all about to begin with. The navigation does give us some hint as to what's going on, so that is good. Home, talk, speakers, schedule, and enroll. It tells me that this is an event and that there are speakers involved, so that certainly is helpful, but again, the tagline would be a good idea. Desirability is where it's mostly at, isn't it? Do I believe I'll gain more than I invest? And in this case, what we're being asked to do at the bottom with the call to action is to enroll now, over here. So the question is am I going to gain more by enrolling now than I'm going to invest, whatever that investment is? And the problem is, firstly, that I don't know what I'm going to gain, because the copy, while pointing me in the right direction, hasn't told me that much yet, which is fine, because it's only a homepage. And secondly, I don't actually know what I'm going to have to invest either. So, not knowing what I'm going to invest, I tend to assume the worst, because I'm just that kind of person. And most people are, in fact, that kind of person, because they've been burned before by, buying things that didn't work out well. So when they see enroll now, click here, people don't instinctively actually think this is going to take me to another page with more information. They think this is going to enroll me, and I'm stuck. They don't think it consciously, they think it subconsciously mostly, but it's just one of those things that you need to be aware of. So very likely your prospect's goals are not going to actually be to enroll now, and I will talk about that a little bit more when we get to objectives. But in terms of the desirability of the copy itself, or in terms of making the objectives desirable, obviously your headline is very important. And I'd like to actually just go through the copy now and have a quick chat about it, because that's the main thing that I want to talk about today. So good teachers can't be made or engineered, they make themselves. Okay, that's not a great headline. It's middle of the road. It doesn't give me an immediate benefit. It sort of implies a benefit. If I'm a teacher, obviously, I assume that prospects are meant to be teachers, so that's fine. It implies a benefit, but it seems a little bit more clever than useful. So remember that when you write a headline, you want to have 4 U's. You want it to be urgent, and I'm not feeling a great sense of urgency here. It's not like it's saying something that makes me really want to read the copy. You want it to be unique. I guess it's unique in a sense, but because it's a play on a very kind of cliched statement, it makes it feel less unique. So in some ways it's probably actually, while it seemed like a good idea at the time, it's probably a little bit too clever for its own good, because playing on cliches doesn't actually work very often. The third U is it must be useful, and again I'm not sure that I'm seeing the use here. And fourthly, it must be unequivocal. So yeah, it's fairly unequivocal, I suppose. Good teachers can't be made or engineers, they make themselves. You can't get a lot more specific than that. But the specific benefit isn't really being translated into the headline very well. More to the point though, if you read the copy, it says, good teaching is a dynamic skill which requires both academic and emotional competence, and is the single most important factor in how well students can learn and achieve. Creative teaching and learning is not about what you teach, it is rather about how you teach. It means inspiring, motivating, stimulating, and energizing your students. You might want to change stimulating to stimulating. Apply drama to make yourself a better teacher. Join the ever-increasing number of teachers that are making a difference in schools each year. Okay, what this copy is basically saying is, we're going to make you a better teacher. What the headline is saying is, good teachers can't be made. So you're kind of contradicting yourself a bit. And I think that your reader will probably sort of understand what you're getting at, but the contradiction is probably even enough that it feels odd. So I think that the headline is probably something that you definitely want to, that's a horrible qualification. The headline is definitely something that you want to change. This isn't the only copy on the page though. You've got your body copy, and then you've got underneath all this extra stuff that says, what are people saying about our Congress? And it's got Marcela Caimani, and everything here is in Spanish, which suggests to me, as indeed it should, that this is in fact a Spanish event. Buenos Aires. It says here, we're a pioneer theatre company committed to creating outstanding emotional theatre, blah, blah, blah. English as a second language. Okay, that makes sense. And our company was founded by Celia Zubiri and blah, 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 in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So this is very likely a site which is going to be catering to people who speak Spanish as a first language. So the question that you really need to ask yourself is, A, is it sensible to have English at the beginning and Spanish at the end? And you'll see this in speakers as well. You've got all these speaker bios, which is great, and they've all got pictures, which is good. And you get down to Lucas Federici, and his bio is in Spanish and everyone else is in English. And it just feels a little bit awkward. My suggestion would be that if your prospect's first language is Spanish, even if this is an English-speaking event, you're probably better off in writing in Spanish. And you're probably better off also having a, what is Argentina.ag? Something like that, congress.players.ag or com.ag instead of just .com, because .com is often associated with just America. So, America. The United States of America. I'm sorry to all those people in South America who are also America. So I would suggest that you have a think about whether or not your prospects will be better off seeing a Spanish page than an English page. You can, of course, go with translations and have both, but that is a lot of work and it does require additional infrastructure. Okay, let me talk about offers. Do my goals match the available options? And I mentioned already that enroll now, click here, is probably not something that your prospect wants to do, not right away. you've got a very good call to action. Apply drama to make yourself a better teacher. Join the ever-increasing number of teachers that are making a difference in schools each year. That's quite powerful. No one wants to be left out of the teachers that are making a difference in schools each year, so there's that implied exclusivity. And of course, teachers want to be better teachers, or generally they do. So that's a strong call to action, but they are probably going to want to learn more before they enroll. For example, they want to know, is this event free, or do I have to pay? And if I have to pay, how much is it? And what am I going to get out of it? What specifically am I going to get taught, and who's going to teach it? So you need to answer all these sorts of questions before you actually ask them to enroll. You could have enroll as a secondary call to action, because some people might click it straight away. But mostly people are going to be wanting to find out more before they actually decide to sign up or enroll. And speaking of objectives, you've got all these testimonials. I'm not going to comment on whether the testimonials should be in a sidebar or not. I think that they're probably fine like this, but you want to have at the bottom of them another call to action, because if people have gotten all the way down there, then it's definitely a good idea to give them something to do rather than just leave them hanging. One interesting side note about testimonials as well, these are quite long. I would suggest taking one sentence that summarizes them out of each one and making it a headline. One last thing, contact us. A lot of people are going to want to do that because they're going to want to find out more. Either they haven't got time to read it now, or they have a question that isn't answered on the site. But if I click on contact us, nothing happens, and that's because I don't have an email client set up on my computer because I use Gmail. You want to have a contact form, or at least have a page that gives them an email address. Simply having a link to an email address is a big no-no. You don't want to do that. Alright, what have we learned? Firstly, always test your headline against your copy. I mean, this sounds like a no-brainer, but surprisingly, usually when you write copy, you write your headline first, and it always seems like a great idea at the time. But then you write your copy and you come back and you read your headline, and if you're paying, excuse me, if you're paying attention, sometimes your headline doesn't actually make sense anymore. Sometimes it contradicts your copy, or sometimes it just doesn't flow with your copy. You always want to make sure that it does. So once you've actually written your copy, it's a very good idea to read over your headline and make sure that it all kind of fits together properly. Secondly, speak your reader's language, and that's true metaphorically, but I mean it literally this time. If your readers are speaking Spanish when they are thinking in their heads, then give them Spanish on your website. It's going to be a lot more engaging for them. They're not going to have to struggle to read it if they're not very good at English. It's just a better way of interacting with them because it's just their natural way of thinking. And thirdly, understand your reader's goals. This is something I probably bring up every single time I do a review, but it's the most important thing, because if your objectives on your site don't match your reader's goals, they're not going to do anything, and of course you do want them to do things. So you need to make sure that your objectives do match their goals. So you need to understand things like how they're thinking, what they're thinking, whether they're going to want more information before they sign up, all that kind of thing. Alright. Email me with comments, questions, or hate mail. And if you want to get your site reviewed for free, I am here, non@informationhighwayman.com. Now, normally that is a $99 value, and the only catch is I actually only do site reviews for people who are on the Ace of Spades, which is my wonderful semi-regular email newsletter, which contains pretty much just straight-shooting marketing tips, occasional tomfoolery, and you can sign up for that for free as well at informationhighwayman.com/ace. It's right there on the screen. You can hardly miss it. Until next time, I am Non. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next Friday.